Pictures in frames of kisses on cheeks, and say you want me, yeah. And then you say I want you, but words are forever. I would wait forever and ever. For your heart, I'll put it back together. I want you forever and ever. And that's how it works. That's how you get the girl, girl. That's how it works. And that's how it works. That's how you get the girl, get the girl. It's how it works. And that's how it works. It's how you get the girl, girl. And that's how it works. It's how you get the girl, girl. That's how it works. That's how you got the girl.
No one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you broke. Your love life's the away. It's like you're always stuck in second gear, when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you 'cause you're there for me too. You're still in bed at 10 and work again at 8. You burned your breakfast so far, things are going great. Your mother warned you there'd be days like these, but she didn't tell you when the world was brought you down to your knees. And I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. I'll be there for you like I've been there before. I'll be there for you 'cause you're there for me too. No one could ever know me, no one could ever see me. Seems you're the only one who knows what it's like to be me. Someone to face the day with, make it through all the rest with. Someone I always laugh with, even at my worst, my best with you. Yeah. reason be loved. Don't love me for fun, girl. Let me be the one, girl. Love me for a reason. Let the reason be love. Don't love me for fun, girl. Let me be the one, girl.
Not your Barbie girl, I'm living in my own world. I am plastic, call me classic. You can't touch me there, you can't touch my body unless I say so. Ain't your Barbie, no. Pull up to that dream house, God gate hills now. How much do you like this? Welcome to my bedroom, hallway, go down. Stairs got permission. I can take myself on a dinner date, buy myself diamonds and the champagne, order 5 courses then chocolate cake. Acting like I can when I want a man, acting like I care but I don't. And I do my own thing, yeah, watch me dance. Not your Barbie girl, I'm living in my own world. I am plastic, call me classic. You can't touch me there, you can't touch my body unless I say so. Ain't your Barbie, no. I'm my own boss, I'm reminding you often. Something that you just can't get. Words don't tempt me, trying to break me. In this year's I ain't trying to trip. No, I can take myself on a dinner date, buy myself diamonds and the champagne, order 5 courses then chocolate cake. Acting like I can when I want a man, acting like I care but I don't. And I do my own thing, yeah, watch me dance. Not your Barbie girl, I'm living in my own world. I am plastic, call me classic. You can't touch me there, you can't touch my body unless I say so. Ain't your Barbie, no. Did you forget I'm real? Oh, I'm breathing, touch me, feel. Oh, say I'm your toy to play with, wanna put me in a box. You ain't gon' talk to me like that, you better stop. Not your Barbie girl, I'm living in my own world. I am plastic, call me classic. You can't touch me there, you can't touch my body unless I say so. Ain't your Barbie, no. Ain't your Barbie, no.
Hey guys, welcome back. So I hope you already wake up by my song. So today is Friday. I hope you feel good today. I'm so happy just by thinking today is Friday. But maybe not for you, okay? So this is just my way to remind you that tomorrow you have a test now. In fact, it's not tomorrow, it's throughout the whole weekend. So just take any 2 hours that you think you have better feng shui that during the 2 hours, then you remember to do your midterm test. Okay, so that's on tomorrow. Now, for today's class, this is a short one. We have two things to cover. So, firstly, we're going to learn how to configure trunking on switches so that when you have many switches that are connected together, all of the devices on those switches can talk to each other. So, that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is we're going to learn how to configure a router to connect all different VLANs together so that even though you are in a different VLAN, you'll still be able to talk to another guy on another VLAN. So that is about dot1q. Okay, so the other day when we stopped, we actually on the last stream I show you about trunk cable. So remember I show you my magic how I make trunk cable. So trunk cable basically is like a lot of cables that are connected together into one cable. Now what I show you is just for illustration purpose. Okay, in fact a real trunk cable is not many LAN cable together. It's just still one cable. But that one cable is logically divided into different channels so that different VLAN can use one single cable. So that's a trunk. Now, today we're going to start straight away using the episode 2 that you have. And I'll explain the background story to you first. Then we'll start to learn how to configure trunking on a switch. So the other day, we have learned how to configure VLAN, and you know that VLAN is similar to a LAN, but it is done on a switch because now this time it is virtual. And the reason we are doing VLAN is really simple. It's because we want to create a lot of networks, but we don't want to spend too much money to buy routers to do so. Now the downside that VLAN that comes with VLAN is that it adds a lot of complexity in terms of how you want to configure VLAN. And yeah, anyway, I think we are fine because we have already learned how to create VLAN. You have already learned how to assign ports into VLAN. And if you like it, you can also name your VLAN into different kind of names that help you to remember what is this VLAN for. So after this, now what we have here today is, let's say today we have some good news. So Snow White and Mulan here, they have their new child. Okay, so right now what I want you to think is that Snow White have a small little princess and Mulan also have her own daughter. Okay, you haven't seen all this movie because Disney haven't released all these things yet lah. So I give you a sneak peek first. So let me show you what is going on lah. So after this, now for our illustration purpose, I want to add a new switch here. So the story is like, now there's one castle, you can only have 4 people staying inside lah. Okay. So now I have 2 more tenants, 2 more princesses that I want to feed. I cannot put into the first shared castle switch. Okay, of course, actually you can, but just because this is a story, I want to teach you how to configure VLAN spanning. So I'm going to use another switch here. So you just imagine that one switch you can put 4 people lah. So now we have 2 more princesses, and then they will live in a new switch. Okay, so I'll label them as. Okay, I'll connect to PC first. So you don't have to do this because I'm just explaining how I get the network that you have. Then later on only you configure. So something like this. Now, next thing is that, of course, mother and daughter, you want them to be able to talk to each other. So if this Snow White have a little princess here, so let's say I call her little Snow White or something, okay? And then this is Mulan daughter, so this is little Mulan. I think her name is Bulan, okay? Bulan, she's a Malay. Don't ask me how Mulan can have a Malay daughter. Okay, so the rules here is that although they are in a separate switch, they still have to talk to each other, mother and daughter, okay? Which means that in our case, the green color one, this Snow White here, will need to talk to this little Snow White. They should be able to ping, okay? Now this Mulan here also have to be able to ping her own daughter Bulan. That's what we need, okay? Now, after how we do this is, of course, we have to link these switches together. Okay, so there are two ways to do this. The first way, which is not the recommended one, is of course you need to have one cable each to connect one VLAN. So for example, if I do these connections here, I can say that this first cable here is to carry VLAN 3 traffic. So that is the first cable here. Do you see that? Now, if I only have this link here, Snow White will be able to talk to little Snow White, but Mulan will not be able to talk to Mulan, her daughter. Okay, so you need, in fact, you need another cable from this castle here, linking here, and this, the second cable here, is to carry VLAN 4 traffic. Now, when you have this, that means if today Mulan want to talk to her daughter Mulan, then there is one dedicated path that will carry VLAN 4 traffic. Okay, so one VLAN will have one own path, but the problem with this is that you are going to use two ports on each switches. Each side you have use up 2 and 2 ports just to build these connections. So you are wasting 2 ports on the switches. Okay. Now the example that I will show you today is how can we connect using a trunk. So I'm not going to configure this one. We'll skip this, but we'll go straight into configure trunking to link 2 of these switches together. So in fact, what we really want is we don't want to have 2 cables. We only want to have 1 cable to connect these 2 switches. Okay. And okay, now I will go into the episode 2 so that we can do this together with you. So for those who want to play this together, you need to open up one of the file in Print Charming folder and then go to episode 2. We are already in episode 2, and really this one is the simplest among the 3. So I'll just go through the instruction first with you, and then we'll start to configure this network. Okay, in fact, I'll just put this thing on the side. It's easier that way. Hold on, let me resize the window properly first. Okay, here, this is the network that I have just explained, and then this one is the playthrough file. Now, if you open the file, the first thing you notice is, hey, how come before I do anything, I already get 6 out of 8 marks. If you notice this one, like, okay, the completion is like 6 out of 8. Okay, I just want to tell that this is not a bug, this is actually a feature, okay? Now, to reward you, because you have been following me for so long, so this is your reward. You get 6 mark bonus. Okay, anyway, no, the truth is that there is something wrong with the configurations, and don't worry about the score here. Just follow me. If you can follow what I'm doing here, that means you're doing everything correctly. Okay, so start with this one first. Now, of course, when you want to connect 2 switches, you have to think about what kind of connection that is. If this is a trunk connection, meaning that a cable or the connections that will carry traffic for many VLAN, not just 2. In this example, we have only 2, but you might have more than 2, like 3 or 4, 5, 6, or even 10 of hundreds. Now, you will think that this cable is actually like, he has a lot of responsibility because he needs to take care of so many traffic. So naturally, we want these trunk connections to be as fast as possible. Okay, now on this switch that we have right now, luckily for us, not all the ports are created equal, meaning that some of the ports are faster, some are not that fast. Okay, so we have actually 2 gigabit port on both of these switches, and normally when you want to build a trunk connections, you want to connect the cable to the gigabit port so that you can carry more traffic. Okay, now in this case, we are going to connect them together using this cable here, and because now normally when we do this, we will just click on auto and then we pray to Zeus, choose the right cable for me. Now in this case, we want to take things into our own hand, and then you want to click on this cable here, click on the switch on the left, and then you go to gigabit. Okay, I'm blocking the view here, just a moment. So what you do is you click on the 4th cable here, and then you click here, go to gigabit port, and then connect to the other end here, also on gigabit port 01. So this connection here both is G01 to G01. Okay, So if you have done this, that means you have already done the first step here. Now the second thing is, after you have done with the physical connections here, what you really want to do is to put this port into a trunk mode. Now by default, remember in the first episode, we learned how to put this port into one VLAN, this port into another VLAN. That kind of mode is called an access mode. Access as in you can access inside, okay? Now in this case, it is called a trunk mode, where it will be responsible to carry all the VLAN traffic. So in this case, how you want to set trunk is, okay, again, one more thing is that you have to do this on the both sides. If you have two switches, you have to do the same kind of setting on both of the switch. Okay, otherwise if you do it on one end, the other end will not be able to talk. So over here, of course, you can do this in any order. So what I do is I will start here first. I will configure this. So I get into this switch, okay, get into the CLI here. So just like how you configure a router, you want to configure this into a trunk. Now the command to configure a trunk is given in the cheat sheet already. So I want you to look at this side here. So there is a section that is labeled as VLAN spanning. Now VLAN spanning means that you have many switches. On different switches you have many VLAN, but some of the VLAN are repeating, are the same. And you want to connect all these VLAN together, and you want all the devices to be able to talk. If you are in the same VLAN, that is called VLAN spanning. Okay, going through many switches. So to configure this, first thing is you have to put the port into a trunk mode. So over here, this is how I do it. You go to that port that you want it to be trunk. You just type this command here, switch port mode trunk. Just one line, that port will become a trunk. Okay, so I will get into INTG01, which is the where I put in the cable here, and then I put switch port mode trunk, and that is how you turn this into a trunk. Okay, now you don't have to worry about that. The next thing you should do is, naturally you have to do this on the other side so that you don't forget any switches if you have too many of them. So what you do is, I'm getting into this second switch here. It is called a Newcastle switch. So I'm already here. Go to the CLI here, and then we'll do the same. Now don't worry about the error message here. You'll see some kind of error message. That's because now one side is a trunk, the other side is not yet a trunk. So there has some compatibility issues. So this one will be fixed once you put this port into a trunk mode. So I will get into INTG01. On this side it is the same. And then you want to put switch port mode trunk, just like that. So this is how you put the highway, the trunk cable, into trunk mode. Okay, now to know whether you have done this correctly, of course you can do this. You can use this command, show int trunk. Okay, for those who are interested, you can try this command. If you do a show int trunk, it will show you if trunking has been configured, and at the moment, what are the VLAN traffic that is allowed to pass through this trunk. Okay, so you can think of trunk sort of like a highway, but highway sometimes a 3-lane highway. Okay, if you go from I don't know, like Kampar to KL is 3-lane, Kampar to Penang is 2-lane. So highway, you have big highway and small highway, and some of the highway, certain lane you cannot use. Okay, like emergency lane. So over here, this one here shows you that what kind in this highway, which VLAN can take this highway. Not everybody can use one. Now of course by default, if you didn't specify who cannot use or who can use, all the VLAN will be able to take these trunk connections. Okay, now of course that is not always what you want. If you look at the next command here, we have this thing called a VLAN pass-through. And VLAN pass-through means that I want to set specifically a certain VLAN can take this trunk, but some other cannot. So the reason is really simple. Now if you think about this, when I put a cable into a trunk connections, you are thinking, wow, now I can just use one cable and all 1000 VLAN can go through. That's correct, that's partly correct. But even though you are doing so, the physical bandwidth that you have on the cable is still the same. So for example, now we have this connection which is a gigabit connection, so you have actually up to 1 gig per second or 1000 meg per second, so that's a really fast connections. But if I put only one VLAN, okay, only one VLAN can take this connection. It means that this VLAN enjoy 1 gig per second all by itself. Okay, now if I say 2 VLAN can go through these connections, that means you have to share half-half. VLAN, the first VLAN can use 500 meg per second, the other VLAN can use the other 500 meg per second. So it is sharing. So you see, if you have too many VLAN that are allowed to go through these connections, then it might cause this cable to be really congested. So this is something that you don't want to have. So if you really have too many VLAN, the right thing to do would be to create another trunk cable. So you don't really want to put all the traffic through one trunk cable. Do you get what I mean here? It's just like now if you have something like this, let's say your highway is this big, okay? You want to fit 10 lanes in this highway, then each lane will be smaller. If you have this big highway, you only fit 2 lanes, then each of the lane will be really big. But the size of the highway cannot change. Okay, do you get what I mean here? Okay, now if you're okay, then it brings us to the next command here. In this example, we are going to set this trunk to carry the traffic for VLAN 2, VLAN 3, VLAN 4, and VLAN 5 only. Okay, because this is the only VLAN that we have here, so the other VLAN will not be able to take these connections. Which means that one day, if you added a new VLAN, say VLAN 6 here, that VLAN, although everything has been configured properly, you cannot ping because this VLAN cannot go through these connections. Okay, so let's go back into the switch and then let's see how we can configure this. So I do this on the left hand side switch first. Okay, now of course you have to get into the interface and then you use this command switch port trunk allowed followed by the VLAN that you want to pass through. So over here, for those who are not inside yet, I'll show you from the start. Do a config T. Now you want to go to G01, which is the trunk, the port that is trunk cable is connected to, and then you type in switch port trunk allowed VLAN followed by the VLAN that you want to do. So it could be 2, 3, 4. You see, somebody is calling me again. Sorry, people like to call me when I have a live stream. Okay, now we are back. This is how you specify what kind of VLAN that you want to pass through. So you can just type this, and yeah, that will allow you to have these 4 VLAN to pass through these connections. Then you should be able to see I'm moving now. Okay, 120 FPS. I'm back. Now, because somebody is calling me on my messenger, so I'm actually streaming. The camera is actually I'm using my phone as a camera. So sorry for the lag earlier. Okay, now coming back to this one. How do you know that you have specify who can go through properly? Now the command that you want to use in this case is show int trunk. Okay, if you type a show int trunk, now this one will tell you that by default, before I do this, remember I show you that 1 to 1000 can take this highway. Now if you have done this command, only 2, 3, 4, 5 can go through. Okay, now naturally if you do this on one side of the switch, you want to do this on the other side as well. Otherwise the control will be very weird, like okay, now from Johor to Singapore, you can take this item over, but when you want to enter Singapore border, the customs say cannot. Okay, so these two sides has to be synchronized, which means that now I have to get back to this Newcastle switch and I'll do the same. So what I do is I do a config T. Remember, get into the interface where you connect the trunk cable, which is G01 at this for this example here, and you just simply put the command switch port trunk allowed VLAN. Now there's another way you can specify. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can just do 2 to 5. I hope it works. Yeah, it works. Yeah, because I never tried this before. Okay, now so that means that you specify a range of VLAN that you want to pass through these trunk connections. And just to be safe, you always want to check whether the changes has take effect. So you do a show id trunk, and yeah, you see now only 2 to 5 can go through. So that is how exactly you set what VLAN can go through these particular connections. Okay. Now, of course, what we have done here so far is this connection here, the dotted line here is a trunk. This one is going to help us so much because one thing is that now we don't have to have one connection for each of the VLAN, and then I'm saving ports on the switch as well. And also, without this one, VLAN on one switch can, even you are in the same VLAN on switch 1, you cannot talk to the same VLAN on another switch. But with this trunk, we have solved the problem. Now, of course, if you try to ping, okay, now if you take this machine here, Snow White, and then you try to ping her daughter, you cannot ping yet. Why? Why? Now, the reason is because we have set trunk, but over here we haven't assigned these ports into their own VLAN. So by right now, what we have here is both of these two new little cute princess, they are in VLAN 1. So if you don't trust me, let's get into this Newcastle switch, okay? So I'm getting inside here, and then I do a show VLAN brief, and you will see that, yeah, that port here is not in VLAN 3 and VLAN 4. In fact, there is no VLAN 3 and there is no VLAN 4 yet. Okay, don't worry about all this VLAN here. So what we want to do is your next job, based on the instructions, you want to assign this one into VLAN 3 and this Bulan here into VLAN 4. Okay, I'm sure you already learned how to do so. So for those who can do this, you can do it on your own. If you cannot, then you can follow how look at how I configure this. Okay. So I will start with the green color one first. Okay, so I want to configure this one. So the port here is FA01, which means that I want to go to INT FA01, and then remember you have to create VLAN first. But it is okay if you don't, because the switch will still do this for you automatically. Now to create VLAN, you can go back here and then you see the command. It's just this line. Okay, but I will skip this one. Okay, for this example, I will skip this. I will straight go into this one. I will straight do this one for you, because later on you will see it's actually the same thing. Okay, so you do a switch port access VLAN 3. Okay, so you will get a message VLAN 3 is not there, but it has been created for you. Cool. Then you go to INT FA02 switch port access VLAN 4, and again this will be created for you. Now what you want to do is you check whether you have assigned this properly. So FA01 is now in VLAN 3, so that's correct. FA02 is in VLAN 4. Yeah, that's correct again. So that's basically what we want here based on this diagram. And if you have done this, most likely you will be able to ping from this Snow White to her daughter, even though they are located in a different switch, because the traffic will go through this cable, this highway here, to another switch. Okay, so let's try this out. So what I do is I get into Snow White, and then I get into the command prompt. I'll try to ping little Snow White. So for your info, this machine here, Snow Little, she is having the IP 192.168.3.2. So this is the IP that I'm going to ping right now from Snow White machine. So I'll ping 192.168.3.2, and yeah, you see, the first try we already get it. We are able to ping. So before you do this trunk cable, you cannot ping. After you have configured trunk, you don't have to worry whether you are in switch 1 or switch 2 or switch number 3 or so on. Okay, doesn't matter. As long as all these switches are connected together with a trunk connections, you will be able to ping anyone that is in the same VLAN. Okay, so that is VLAN spanning. So if you're okay about this, I'll give you 2 minutes to look back what we have just done, and then in 3 minutes time, okay, 3 minutes, we'll get into dot1q, and then we will see how can we make everyone here to talk to each other even though we are not in the same VLAN, because that is why we create network. You don't want to have a network that, okay, only mother can talk to daughter, but mother cannot talk to her friend. So in what we have right now, Snow White is not be able to talk to Cinderella, and Cinderella cannot talk to Mulan. But this is not right because we need to gossip. Okay, we are human, we like to gossip. So later on, I'll show you how we can do this by adding a router and creating configuring dot1q to connect all of the VLAN together. So see you back in 3 minutes.
Kiss me out of the bearded barley nightly, beside the green, green grass. Swing, swing, swing the spinning step. You wear those shoes and I will wear that dress. Oh, kiss me beneath the milky twilight. Lead me out on the moonlit floor. Lift your open head, strike up the band and make the fireflies dance. Silver moon sparkling, so kiss me. Kiss me down by the broken tree house. Swing me upon its hanging time. Bring your flowered hat. We'll take the trail marked on your father's map. Oh, kiss me beneath the milky twilight. Lead me out on the moonlit floor. Lift your open head, strike up the band and make the fireflies dance. Silver moon sparkling, so kiss me. Kiss me beneath the milky twilight. Lead me out on the moonlit floor. Lift your open head, strike up the band and make the fireflies dance. Silver moon sparkling, so kiss me. So kiss me. So kiss me. So kiss me. Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really wanna zig a zig ah.
If you want my future, forget my past.
If you wanna get with me, better make it fast. Now don't go wasting my precious time. Get your act together, we could be just fine.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I wanna really, really, really wanna zig a zig ah.
If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Make it last forever. Friendship never ends. If you wanna be my lover, you have got to give. Taking is too easy, but that's the you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Make it last forever. Friendship never ends. If you wanna be my lover, you have got to give. Taking is too easy, but that's the way it is. So here's a story from A to Z. You wanna get with me, you gotta listen carefully. We got M in the place who likes it in your face. You got G like MC who likes it on a easy V who doesn't come for free. She's a real lady. And as for me, you'll see. Slam your body down and wine it all around. Slam your body down and wine it all around. If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get with my friends. Make it last forever. Friendship never ends. If you wanna be my lover, you have got to give. Taking is too easy, but that's the way it is. If you wanna be my lover, you gotta make it last forever. Slam your body down and wine it all around. Slam your body down and wine it all around. Slam your body down and wine it all around. Slam your body down and take a sec. If you
Hey guys, welcome back. So now we are going to learn how to configure dot1q. But before that, of course, like always, I'm going to tell you the story behind the case study that we have. So over here, if you look at the diagram here, again, this one you don't have this. I'm just trying to explain the backstory here. So now what we want to do is we want to connect all these VLAN, different VLAN together, so that the hosts in all these VLAN, they are able to ping each other. And in our example, where right now, if you don't remember, we are right now in Disneyland, and we have 4 princesses which are now sharing a same castle in their own room. Now, how do we connect them so that although you are in your different room, you can ping each other? If you look at the diagram here, before we learn about VLAN, this is how we do it. Every switch, every network, you have your own switch, and then you connect to a router. Okay, we know that with a router, a host in a different network will be able to ping the other host in another network. That is what a router do, because a router helps us to forward packets. But now it gets a little bit complex, because now we are not segregating devices or network using a router. Instead, we do this on a switch, where in fact we have already done so. Now the next challenge here is not to create network. Okay, we have already created network, but to link them. And of course, we can still use a router. So one thing you should know is that with VLAN, although a switch allows us to configure VLAN, we cannot make them talk to each other across different VLAN without a router. So somehow, you still need a router. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the VLAN that we created here, even though you have a router, what it really does for you is it allows inter-VLAN connections, which is why it is called inter-VLAN routing. Okay? But this VLAN, this router will not help us to go into the internet. Meaning that this VLAN, let's say for example, this VLAN 5 here, we know that if I set trunking, I'm fine, because trunk will carry my VLAN 5 traffic. Okay. Now after that, we learn how to set a router to carry VLAN 5 traffic. Okay. But this VLAN 5 traffic will not go to the other side of the router to get into the internet. Okay. So the bottom line here is that VLAN traffic doesn't get into the real internet. Okay, now so before I start, I just want to tell you something that I've discovered lah. Okay, and later on you will see what I do is I will add a new router here, and then with this router I'm going to connect all these 4 networks together using this router. So how this router is actually the Prince Charming that you have. You see, this game that we have today is called Prince Charming. Actually, he is the main character. Now, I just want to tell you something that I've discovered now. So for all the fairy tales, okay, this is not really about the networking, just a side story. So you see that they have one thing in common. All the fairy tales. I'm not sure how many you watch. Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty. But the common thing is that all of them have a beautiful ending, and then all the princess will live happily ever after. Okay, I hope it is true for you also lah. Now, but okay, now there is another side of story that I didn't tell you. which is what I will tell you today, because when you learn about those stories, you are still young, so maybe it is not the time, but now you are an adult, so I have to tell you the other side of the story. I'm sorry that I have to be the one to break this to you lah. So what I have here is, okay, this one here. This one is, let me put this up. This is, I think she is I don't know, Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella, okay, but that is not important. Okay, this is her boyfriend. Okay, this guy, so you see, can you please look at their face properly? So this one is the Prince Charming for this princess, okay? And then this is another couple. I want to show you another couple. This is another couple. This one I'm sure this is Rapunzel because her hair is so long, okay? And then this is her Prince Charming. Every princess will find a Prince Charming in the end. Okay, or 白马王子啦. But okay, now you look at the face again. Do you find something very similar? Okay, does this guy look familiar to you? Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, this is something I discovered. Okay, they cannot appear together, but some magic I want to show you. Do you see these two guys like they are the same guy? Are they the same guy? Oh no. So what I discovered is that all these these princesses, they have been dating the same guy. All the Prince Charming that they talk about, they are talking about the same guy. Okay. Now, anyway, this is not really related lah. I just want to share this with you. Now, so what I really want to do is like this guy here, he has 4 girlfriends. Okay, so maybe you can just think of this guy, this router as the Prince Charming lah. Anyway, if you don't get my story, that's fine. I just want to tell you that I discovered this. It ruined my childhood, but I don't want to be alone. I want to ruin your childhood as well. So I have to tell you this story. Okay, now coming back to the example here. So for you to do this playthrough, you have to open episode 3, and then you get to yeah, I think you are right. In a way, you see why this work is because like even here, okay, we just take this as an example. We're going to use a router to connect all of them, and that router is Prince Charming. So in the episode 3, what you really need to do is to configure dot1q. Now I just want to give you a head up. This configuration is a bit complex because you have to configure on both the switch, and you have to also do it on a router. And when you're configuring dot1q, you have to be very careful with the parameter that you put in. Otherwise, you will be routing traffic to a wrong VLAN. Okay, so you will get to see what I mean in a short while. So what you want to do is, okay, let me go through the instruction first. So over here, you want to add a new router. Now, you have to make sure you follow the device that I'm using right now, because you know, different devices, they have different features, they have different port, the label will be different. So you can use any device, of course, because if you look at this episode 3, there is no score. You start with 0 and 0, okay, because I don't put in any check for this one. I don't want you to feel stressed that everything you do, you'll be judged. I don't want that. A game has to be fun, so there is no score here. How do you know you do this episode 3 correctly is later on you just see if you can ping. Okay, if you can ping with anyone here, that means you have done this correctly. So I want to take this router here, 2811. Okay, this one. So you just look around. I'm sure you have this router as well, and then click here. Now you can place it anywhere. There is no right or wrong here. So over here, the next thing is you want to connect this cable to one of the switch. Okay, now there are 2 ways to do this. First is you can connect this switch to this router in one connection, and then you can connect this switch to this router in another connection. But if you do so, what you're actually doing is you are using up one port on this switch here, and then you are using one port on this switch, and then you have to configure 2 times because here you connected 2 ports, which is actually wasting time and you're wasting a port on the switch. So what we really want to do in this example is, I don't want to connect both of the switch. I will connect only one switch to the router. So if you have already linked the cable here, you have to remove the cable. So I'm going to remove this cable here and this cable here. And I only want to connect this one, the shared castle, to the router. Okay, you can either take either one. So what I'm trying to do here is, I want to allow all different VLAN to talk to each other across this router, because we know that with a router you can go to another network. Okay, but I only do it on one. So for example, what I'm taking this is because you can see this is the main castle. All the princesses' mom are staying here. So all children has to be accompanied by the parents, which is why all the traffic have to go through this switch later. Okay, now of course, like what we always do, if you are going to do this, you make sure you want to have a high-speed cable or high-speed connection for this particular link. So I will still use a gigabit port for this. Okay, so you choose on the 4th cable here. Click on cursor. So there's only one more left, gigabit Ethernet 2. Wait, now I'm blocking you, so let me move here. So you click on gigabit Ethernet 2. You pull this one, click on the router 0, you connect this to FA00. Now, of course, this is true if you are thinking that now one side is gigabit, the other side is just a fast Ethernet. So will this connection be fast or not fast? Will it be running on a gigabit speed or running on just a normal fast Ethernet speed? The answer is it will be downgraded to run on only fast Ethernet speed. So if you want to have a gigabit connections, both sides you will need to have this adapter on both sides of the device. Okay, but anyway, that's fine because this is just a demo. So what I want to do next is I want to configure a trunk, these connections to be trunk. That's the first thing. And then there's one extra thing, is because now this is not a switch to a switch, this is a switch to a router. So on this side here, later on the router here, you want to configure dot1q. Now this is important. Dot1q is the protocol that allows you to take one connection on a router or one interface, split it to many sub interfaces, and then all of these sub interface will be connected just like a real network. So again, before you learn about VLAN, life is simple. Like I say, Apple is just Apple. Apple is a fruit. Apple is not a phone company. But after you learn VLAN, even a router is different. So before that, we say you have one router. Every port that you connect to, every connection you put to a router will give you one network. That's correct. But after this, you have to think that if I have only one cable connect to one port on the router, that one cable can support more than one network. It can be 10 network, 20 network. And how this works is by using the dot1q, because dot1q will take that cable, that one interface, logically split it into many sub interfaces. Okay, that's how it works. So what we want to do next is we will configure, of course, on both sides, and I always start with the easy one. Now, I will do this on the switch first. For those who need help with the command, open up the cheat sheet here, and then you go to the section which is labeled as trunking. Okay, it's Intervlan-routing. So for those who have cheat sheet with you, you want to be looking at this section here. Now, this is how we configure trunk. I will go through the command very quickly so that you know what I'm typing. Now, again, you have to do this on both devices. So you will start with the switch first. On the switch, it's really simple, just like what we have done. You get into the port where you connect the switch to the router. You put it into trunk mode. Okay. Then you go to the router and you get into the interface, which is the port that connect to the switch, and we configure dot1q. Now let's go through this command here a little bit. Now when you configure dot1q, you want to get into the interface label. So for example, if I connect the cable at FA01, then this is what I type, FA01. And then immediately you want to type a no shut. So you see over here, I don't put in any IP address for my interface, which is something new, because before this, all this time, every interface you will put in an IP and then you will type no shut to turn it on. Now in this case, you don't want to do so. You only want to turn on the interface without giving it an IP address. Okay, now after that, this is where it gets interesting. You want to go to another interface, and this time you want to put in the interface ID for your sub interface. So what exactly is your sub interface? Now if you look at this example here, I will put FA0/1.2. Now what this means is that because my main interface is FA0/1, I want to extend from this interface, so I will extend it from FA0/1 dot, which is where the dot comes from, and then you want to put any number here to represent the sub interface ID. Okay, now this one can be any number. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5, but the way I do it so that I don't configure wrongly is I always put the VLAN number here. So for example, if I want to set one network for VLAN2, because you see every VLAN is their own network. So VLAN2 have their own network address, VLAN3 have their own network address, just like a traditional physical LAN. So if I want to set this to route traffic for VLAN2, I will put 2 here. Okay, if I do this for VLAN3, over here, I will put number 3. But it can be any number, okay? This is just how I do it. Now, next, you want to type this command encap dot1q. So this is the keyword here, followed by dot1q, which is the protocol that is helping us to create these sub interfaces. And then here, this is really important. This one has to be your VLAN ID. So if you are currently doing for VLAN2, here it has to be 2. If you are creating for VLAN3, right now this number has to be 3. Then if you are doing for VLAN10, this has to be 10. Okay, so that's the 4th line. And lastly, you want to finish this up with, of course, the IP address, because what we are doing now, we are creating an interface on the router. All interface on the router, you should have an IP address. Okay, just like a physical LAN. So over here, you will put in IP address, which is how you assign IP to a router, followed by the router interface IP. So let's say in this example, we give all the routers the last usable IP of all the VLAN. Okay, so if this is 2.0, then the router IP is .254, followed by the subnet mask. So this is what we have learned. Okay, this one we already know this. We want to put this IP to that interface. The difference here is that we are not putting it to the main interface. Instead, we are assigning this IP to a sub interface 1.2 inside this main interface 0/1. Okay, so I give you 10 seconds to briefly go through this again, and then we'll get into the configurations. So if you are ready, we'll start with the switch first, of course, because this is the easiest part. So I'll go to the switch. Right now I'm inside here. I go to the CLI here. So again, this is trunking. So for those who just joined, if you want to configure trunk, you're supposed to look at VLAN spanning. So, but anyway, you also have the command here, so that's fine. So en config t. Now you want to get into the interface where you put in this cable to the router. So it is intg0/2, and then followed by switch port mode trunk to turn this port into a trunk mode. So if you want to check if you have done this correctly, you can always do a show int trunk to see whether it has been configured. Now, it is not showing here yet because the other side is not working. So that's fine. Anyway, if you have done this, I'm not sure whether we can do a show run to check. Let me check, try this. Yeah, you can. So in fact, there's another way for you to check is you do a show run and then you go to that interface, and now you see it is showing that this interface is already set into a trunk, which is what we really want. So we are done with the switch. Now we'll move on to the router. So okay, you are clear, guys. Now I'm getting into the router. So I think we have been really good with router because we have been configuring router for like 6 weeks now. Except now we have something new lah, which is dot1q. So I will put the commands side by side so that you know what I'm doing. Okay, now in this example, I will not show you how to configure dot1q for all the network here. Right now we have 4 VLAN. So if you want to allow full connectivity, meaning that doesn't matter where you're from, you will be able to ping anyone on any VLAN, then you have to do Intervlan-routing for 4 VLAN. Because why? Because you have 4 VLAN here. Now in this example, in this stream, I'm going to show you how I configure dot1q for VLAN 3 and VLAN 4 only. Now if you want to finish the rest of the network, you can do it after the stream. So what I want to show you is, in the end, I can use this machine here, Snow White, which is currently in VLAN 3, and then I can ping VLAN in VLAN 4, which is not supposed to happen because they are in different network. But with Intervlan-routing, we can ping from VLAN 3 to another VLAN, which is VLAN 4. Okay, so get into the router, go to the interface that you connect the cable. So it's config T. Okay, wait, let me bring this up. So you're supposed to refer to this command here. So config T, and then it is intfa 0/0 because just now I connect this to FA00. Okay, now immediately after here, you want to put a no shut to turn on this interface, and then you want to get to the sub interface. So intfa, I'm extending from /00, so I have 0/0 dot. Okay, now the next number here will be the VLAN number. So I put in, again, this is just the way I do it. This is for VLAN 3, so I will put 3 to create a new sub interface 0.3. Okay, after this you want to use the dot1q to do the split. So you do encap, split as in one interface to many interface. So encapsulate dot1q followed by the VLAN ID. This one has to be the VLAN ID, so it's VLAN 3, number 3 here. Okay, now next one, you want to assign the IP address to this interface. So this VLAN 3, right now, the network, okay, maybe it is not clear. You can find out by checking the IP address of Snow White, and then you know what is the network address. So to make it easy for you, I just write this out. So the network address for this green color VLAN 3 is 3.0, and then the one for yellow color is 192.168.4.0. Okay, and this example, I will, like what I said earlier, we always use the last IP for the router. So in this case, the IP is 192.168.3.254, which is the last usable IP on VLAN 3, followed by 255.255.255.0. Press enter. Oh, sorry, it's IP address. So IP address, and then the rest will stay the same. Yeah, press enter, that will work. So after that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So just press exit. Okay, now you can actually do a show run, and then if you check on the show run here, you will be able to see this line. So this, how do I get here? I do a show run, and now I can see that on this router, on the interface 00, it has been split to smaller interface, and one of it is .3, and right now this one is supporting VLAN number 3, and the router IP for VLAN 3 is 3.254. So that's how I do it. Now of course you want to do the same for all the network that you have here, all on the same interface, which is the whole point of dot1q. If you are confused, why this? Why not I do it on another interface? Now, again, the whole point of what we are doing here is we want to build a clean, minimalist network, and we want to use as little port as possible, which is why everything will be connected to the same port, but it will be split into sub-interface. Okay? Now, to finish this up, I will show you how I configure dot1q on VLAN-4, and then we'll see if we can ping from Snow White to VLAN. Okay? So config T, int fa00, because you are still using the same int fa00. Okay, now you don't have to type a no shut because earlier I have already do a no shut. So you can just go into int fa0/0 dot. Now this time VLAN-4, so I'll use number 4 here. And that is how this new interface is created. Next, encap dot1q followed by your VLAN number. So it's VLAN-4, so I'll put a 4 here. The next thing is you want to assign the router IP here. So the router IP is 192.168.4.254. The last usable IP in the network 4.0, followed by a /24 mask. So you have 255.255.255.0. That's it. So if you have done so, now let's get to a show run, do a show run to see if this has been configured correctly. And you should be able to see now that you have two sub-interface, one for VLAN 3 here, and the other one for VLAN 4 here. And that's how you do dot1q. Okay? Now of course, do is easy. Whether it works or not, we are not sure yet. So now I'm going to try to ping using Snow White. I want to ping to VLAN and hopefully it works. I'm not sure. Okay? You know how much risk I'm taking. I'm doing this on a live stream and I don't know if it works or not. So anyway, let's get to Snow White PC, and then you want to ping VLAN. So VLAN is having IP 4.2. Just for your info here, this is the destination IP VLAN. I'm going to ping from Snow White PC. Okay. So get into the command prompt, type the ping command 168.168.4.2, and yeah, just do a fast forward here. Luckily it is able to ping. Yeah, normally I do a fast forward because now you are doing a routing, and the first few try will be a request because routing is still router is trying to figure out what's the path to take. But after eventually, if you try to ping again, you'll get all successful ping. And this shows us that what happened here. Snow White is able to ping VLAN from VLAN 3 to VLAN 4, even though they are currently in a different network, which is what we have earlier in a real physical LAN. If you have a router, you can always ping from one LAN to another LAN. Okay, but if you have more than one router, what do? You do routing. Now, so of course the next question here would be, do I need to do routing for VLAN? So at the scope here, I will say no, because like what I said earlier, VLAN traffic doesn't go into the real internet. So there's no point for you to do a routing to get to another network. Okay? So if you are here, that's pretty much it. This is how we configure dot1q. But so I just want you to see the whole picture. Is like we started with a switch, and then we say that we don't want to create network on a router, so we do it on a switch. But every VLAN you need one cable, so it's not cool. We are wasting port. So we learn how to do trunking to connect switches, and we cannot just leave it there because Cinderella have to talk to Snow White. Snow White have to talk to Mulan. Normally they will go out in a gang of 4 and then they have gossip and coffee, and then they will talk about, wow, my Prince Charming is really fun, he's really handsome, he's so caring, he know I like bubble tea. Okay, the problem is that they didn't know all of them are talking about the same guy. Okay. So that is why we need to do inter-VLAN routing, and then all of the princesses can talk to each other even though they are in different VLAN. And the most important point is that we do it using one trunk cable instead of many cable. And that is how you get a clean, beautiful, minimalist network. Okay, now before you go, I have one extra thing to show you on the slides. And then once we are done with that, I'll see you next week. Okay, but before that, let's get back to your slide first. So I just want to show you this example on intermittent routing. So over here, this is when we haven't do the trunk, okay? Now of course there is no right or wrong. You can always use one cable for one VLAN, but if you are doing so, there is really no point for you to learn about VLAN. So which is why definitely you have to set trunk. So in this example here, in fact you only have two VLAN. You have VLAN 2 and then you have VLAN 3. Okay, now you know that before you have a router, so let's say if you don't have a router, these people can talk because they are in the same VLAN, and then you have trunk. But they cannot talk to another VLAN. But with a router, now you can. Okay, but you see over here, I have one cable for one VLAN. Okay, another cable for another VLAN. So in this case, let's say this PC0 here send a ping request or try to ping PC6. Okay, so I'm going to show you how does the packet go. So it will start, of course, from PC0. Okay, I hope you can see this. It will go to the switch. Okay, over here, switch will know that the destination is not in the same network, so this has to go to the router. Okay, because this one is VLAN 2, so it will take the orange color part, not the green color part. You have two, but you cannot take the green color. Because I am from VLAN 2, so I will take the first cable to the router. Okay, now the router check. This guy here, I know how to get there. In fact, he is in VLAN 3. So to go to VLAN 3, the packet will not take the first cable, the top cable in orange. Instead, I will take the green color because VLAN 3 is using that cable. So to go to VLAN 3, I will take here, and then I will go here, and then come here. Do you see it? So the point here is that if you have two or more cable and one cable for each VLAN, all the traffic will always only take the cable that you have configured for that particular VLAN. Now, if you go to the next example here, this is exactly the same thing. No, actually, in fact, you have more than one VLAN. So let me color this for you. Let's say this VLAN 2 and this is VLAN 5. Okay. So again, I'm trying to show you how does the packet flow. So if you have a VLAN PC2 is trying to talk to PC5, so say PC0 is trying to ping PC5, the packet will start here, go to the switch. This time, now it will not go directly here. This is wrong because they are in different VLAN, so it has to go to the router first. But luckily, in this case, this is a trunk, so it doesn't matter. I will always take this connection. Okay, so the router check, and then I know how to get to VLAN 5. So again, I will take the same cable because only one trunk cable here. But of course, this one now it is in the opposite direction here lah. Okay, so it will go here, and then it go to VLAN 5, PC5 in VLAN 5. This is how the packet is going from the router to the destination. Now this is only 1 hour, okay? I'm just taking you extra 10 minutes. So if you want to go, you can go. It's just 1 hour. It's Friday. Nobody want a 2-hour class on Friday. Okay, now if you have another class, I think maybe you can go. But in fact, I have something planned for you lah. I have this past year question here. What about this? If you don't think you want to continue, that's fine. We'll stop here, and then in one of the stream, we will talk about some related questions from the past year paper, and then we'll also discuss your quiz, your midterm, your lab test, which I think some of you are very excited to find out what I am not perfect. So we will have one stream just for all these things. Okay, so that's all for this stream. Again, if you like this stream, please don't forget to click on the like button below. Okay, I heard every YouTuber is saying that, so I'm also following. You know why? Because if you click on the like button, it will bump up this video so that more people can watch this video lah. So if you like, please click on the like button. If you don't like, that's fine. You can always click on the dislike button 2 times. That's important. Dislike 2 times, like button you click 1 time. Okay, so that's all. I wish you good luck in your midterm test, and I'll see you back again next week. Peace out.
say pretty hurts, and I don't wanna sit still. I'm a pretty girl up in a pretty world, but no, I won't sit still. Look pretty, sure I'm a pretty girl up in a pretty world, but they say pretty hurts, and I don't wanna sit still. I'm a pretty girl up in a pretty world, but no, I won't sit still. Look pretty. Oh, I don't know what you've been told, but the sky right here is gonna rule the world. Yeah, that is where I'm gonna be, because I wanna be. No, I don't wanna sit still. Look pretty. You get up on your 9 to 5 dream of picket fences and trophy wives, but no, I'm never gonna be, cause I don't wanna be. No, I don't wanna sit still. Look pretty. Oh, I don't know what you've been told, but the sky right here is gonna rule the world. Yeah, that is where I'm gonna be, because I wanna be. No, I don't wanna sit still. Look pretty. You get up on your 9 to 5 dream of picket fences and trophy wives, but no, I'm never gonna be, cause I don't wanna be. No, I don't wanna sit still. Look pretty. Sit still. Look pretty. Sit still. Look pretty. Sit still. Look pretty. Sit still. Look pretty.
Come on, don't say goodnight with the stars in the sky. Let's wait till tomorrow paints the sun across the night. I see love in your eyes, and if you see it in mine, let's wait till tomorrow. Don't say good, please don't say goodnight. Check cashed and I'm ready for the weekend. Blow it all, making memories with my friends. 2 girls on my lap, super packed in. It's alright, it's alright. Plug the iPod in, put on ASAP. Hella loud, trying to rap. You can't rap. In her work uniform, but she's still bad. It's alright, it's alright. Take a deep breath in, don't be shy. Don't you worry about tomorrow, cause tomorrow ain't tonight. Just kick back, let the universe align. Come on, don't say goodnight with the stars in the sky. Let's wait till tomorrow paints the sun across the night. I see love in your eyes, and if you see it in mine, let's wait till tomorrow. Don't say good, please don't say goodnight. Super drunk, still saying that we're just buzzed. Last call, everybody's getting paired up. Making out at the bar, call it young love. It's alright, it's alright. Let's find a bonfire, or we can start one. Throw your middle fingers up to a new sun, cause we ain't sober and the party's never over. Singing, it's alright, it's alright. Take a deep breath in, don't be shy. Don't you worry about tomorrow, cause tomorrow ain't tonight. Just kick back, let the universe align. Come on, don't say goodbye.